Diving fans, please welcome our athletes competing in the men's 3-meter championship final. Athletes will be introduced in the order in which they'll be performing their dives. Please welcome from Calgary, Luke Gertzen. Representing Point Claire Dive Club, Dean Kalfakas. From Calgary, Ernest Breitenbach. From Calgary, Tasman Abramovich. From Camo, Olivier Gauthier. Diving as an independent, Bryden Hattie. Diving as an independent, Carson Paul. Representing Camo, Cedric Fofana. And diving as an independent, Victor Povsner. Diving fans, these are your men's 3-meter championship finalists. Good luck, gentlemen. Bon chance.
The men's 3-meter finals at the Winter Senior National Championships here in Winnipeg coming right up for you. Alex Despatie, and in great company once again, Rylan Weens with me. Rylan, my friend, not only are you looking great, you're healthy since the last time we spoke on this broadcast.
Yeah, I've been healthy for a good 4 months after, well, last time I've been around the world. I went to Japan, then to Pan Am Games in Santiago, Chile, and I'm back diving, so super happy about that.
So thanks a lot for taking a little bit of your time to watch some diving and comment on it with me. And these are your boys, these are your friends. Of course, you travel with them quite a bit. This event throughout the weekend is a very important one. It is the trials for the next World Championships happening in Qatar in the next, actually, little while. It would be, you guys would leave at right around mid-January, right?
Yeah, we're leaving mid-January for that. We got a pre-training camp, and then we're off to Qatar for the last chance qualifier for the Olympics.
Also a qualifier for Canada Cup, which will be happening a little later on this year. And since it's in Canada, we get to have a lot of spots. So this event in many, many ways is very important for all the divers that will be participating. So looking forward for this next event. Men's 3-meter final obviously has something special for me to watch every time. It's been a while, but the guys are ready to go. I've seen some good preliminary rounds over this morning, and look, we're going to see some big dives, some very exciting moments as well. And Rylan, you're going to help me out through the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, like I said, last time we were in Toronto, and now I didn't even know I'd have this opportunity, but here we are.
I'm going to chase you around the pool the whole weekend. If you're not busy, we'll be on the mic together for sure, because it was a great experience for me as well. So the event coming right up in just a few moments. We'll be right back. All right, the official whistle means the event is just about to start. 9 divers, 6th round of dives in this final. And we'll get it going right away with Luke Gertzen from the Calgary Diving Club. His first dive will be a back 1.5, 2.5 twist, 2.8 degree of difficulty. Well done. Very good. Very composed on the board. This is not a very difficult dive physically for Luke, I assume.
Yeah,
right?
he's actually I dive with Luke, and this is one of his most consistent, best dives. So
very straight, a little bit of splash. Mary, your coach right there. She's happy as well.
yeah, it's really great to see him in the final. I know he just snuck in, but he was super happy with that. So
And we're going to see some dives that are a bit lower in the degree of difficulty, but it's always about consistency and finding that way of being comfortable in the event. And up next, Dean Kalfakakos from the Point Claire Diving Club. Quite young as well.
There's a lot of young talent in this event, like a lot of the younger boys, you know, doing those easier dives like you're saying, but just consistently doing them well and making it to the final.
And this is the senior national championship, so they're trying to gain that experience on a tougher field. His first dive, an inward 2.5 tuck. Very nice. Complete vertical, beautiful entry in the water as well. Always looking for that ripped entry, no splash, and that's exactly what we just saw here.
Yeah, he's a competitor. I always every time in the competition, you know he's going vertical.
All right, it's worth a fist pump from Aaron Ziver, the coach. In this first round, just getting going here. Ernest Breitenbach, he'll be doing the same dive except in the pike position this time. Degree of difficulty of 3.0.
And Ernie, he was an ex-gymnast diving in Calgary now, and the progress that he's made in the last couple of years, it's amazing to see. He's really upped his game, and he looks like he's a natural in the sport.
Beautiful dive. A lot of control there, and you mentioned his past in gymnastics. The challenge for them is to learn how to land on their heads, right? But
Yep.
as soon as they figure that out, they have everything they need to be successful in diving, for sure. That's good for sevens for a total of 63 points for Ernie, as you called him.
Yep.
All right, up next, Tasman Abramovich. Some of the harder dives in this event will come from this man right here. He'll kick off the event with an inward 3.5 somersault tuck position, 3.4 degree of difficulty. Oh, running out of space a little bit at the end. You really want to use that board as much as possible to get high enough while creating that speed.
And I know I have seen him do this amazing in the warm-up before this event, so maybe he was just a little hesitant and a little bit of the nerves on the first dive. I'm expecting him to come back strong on the next one, though.
Clearly, Tasman's been training under the Florida sun at FSU.
Yeah, he's got that tan going.
Coming up from the Camo Diving Club, Olivier Gauthier, and his first dive will be a front 2.5 with 1 twist in the pike position, 3.0 degree of difficulty. Oh, he made it hard on himself with that hurdle. In that approach, you really want to reach the end of the board every time, and you can see it here even. He's about a foot back, so that means he's got to work a whole lot harder to create that rotation. Really good judgment, though, trying to find that vertical, but I think he would have liked to be a bit more comfortable on that board.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things on the springboard. I mean, from a tower diver, I don't have to worry about the variability of the springboard, but all the guys, the hurdles, it can make such a big difference on your dive, and even if you don't know the best hurdle, you can still put the dive down as long as you don't get thrown off by the hurdle you've done.
It's like an extra thing to manage while doing the dive with the nervous system going all out while competing. All right, up next, Bryden Hattie. And he'll start the competition with an inward 2.5 pike.
And I know that Bryden, he's been really going off the last couple of years, and I think he's really dialed in for this one. He's going to do some good stuff.
Ooh, you're right, Rylan. He is off to a great start with this inward 2.5 pike. In full control, beautiful pike position, finds that vertical. Maybe a tiny degree short, but really good start to the meet.
Judges like that one.
8.5s for a total of 76.50. Tommy McLeod happy with the start. We were talking off the air before. Carson Paul coming up, who's also kind of breaking through on this national scene.
Yeah, he was always. I knew him as a tower diver. Like, he was very good, especially even up till last year. And now I know he does both, and he's really shining through. Awesome on the 3-meter. This is the first time I've ever watched him dive live, and it's super impressive what he's doing.
I can see it in your eyes. I'm telling you. Really good control here. Another beautiful showing of the pike position. Straight legs, pointed feet. The judges are looking for that every time. Knows exactly where he is in the air, coming out here in full control.
And he's a little bit taller of a diver, so when he gets in that perfect pike position and makes those dives, it's even more impressive.
More beautiful to watch, eh? The judges are looking for finesse, are looking for all the movements to be done effortlessly, and we just got a great showing of that right now. Here comes Cédric Fofana from the Camo Diving Club. His first dive, a forward 2.5 with 2 twist pike position. Big dive here. Nicely done. Cedric, another really tall diver. It's, well, you know all about that because you're pretty tall too, and it's an extra difficulty to get in those tight pike positions here.
And he'll be much happier with that. In the prelims, sorry, he went a little further over on that, didn't quite save it as well. So 7.5 8s for him. I'd be super pleased with that one.
76.50 on the dive, and I know one of the issues for him in these twisting dives is to keep the legs tight together.
Yeah.
So he's been working on that. Clearly was demonstrated on this one.
Oh, here's, I think, the most smiley man in the event, Victor.
Victor smiles a lot. Here he comes, Victor Povsner. With a forward 3.5 pike position.
It's great to see that energy that they bring. You know, like when someone's happy and diving, a lot of people are serious, but he's like just having the good time of his life out there.
Forward 3.5 pike. You know, one thing he has to deal with is his power. He is so high in the air here, but you have to control those 3.5 rotations. And he comes out of the pike position just a little bit too early. And so the body stays short from the vertical. That doesn't take away his smile, though.
No.
74.40 for Victor to start the event.
And I think what the judges really liked on that dive was how high he went. Like, he was almost touching the 10-meter on that one.
And that's spectacular. Height, distance from the board, always are things that the judges are looking for. Everything has to stay in the secure distance, obviously, but as high as you can go and as easy as you can make the dive look, the judges love seeing that. We got a tie for first here with Bryden and Cedric. Victor in third, Carson Paul in fourth for now, but lots of diving to go. Round 2 coming up. Luke Gertzen now with a forward 3.5 tuck position, 2.8 degree of difficulty. Oh, good reflexes here. Well done.
And you can see he took it a little bit further out than Victor had, but it's one of the things him and Mary have been working a lot is bringing that dive a little closer to the board so you can have a little, instead of taking it out, you take it up. And that was great. He's like really been improving on that in the last couple of weeks.
So a bit of a deduction for the distance, like you said, but finding that vertical with a ripped entry is good for 7.5s on the dive. Up next, Dean Kalfakakos now. He will be doing the exact same dive. I always enjoy when that happens. We can compare a lot easier.
Yeah, I think they're doing a lot of the same dives back to back in this event, so the judges get to really, really compare the dives one next to the other.
Well done. We're seeing a lot of very stable dives so far. Same thing for Dean here. A little bit of trouble on the board to the side, but doesn't panic, stays composed. In the future, maybe want to work on that tuck position, the pointed toes in that tuck position, that finesse. But overall, a good dive. And you mentioned the judges earlier. They only get to see the dive once. We're lucky to have the replay here so we can analyze what just happened, but they have to react really quickly and get those scores out.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can really pick up in the slow-mo video afterwards.
Oh, yeah. We have that luxury here. No pressure on us to look back again. Bit of a delay here. Here comes Ernest Breitenbach with the forward 3.5 pike position. 3.1 degree of difficulty. Wow.
That was a really nice sound on the entry there.
Oh, good sound on the entry, but a lot of sound on the board as well. So obviously you have to keep your focus, keep working, go through the motion, and know that it doesn't affect the dive all that much and start second guessing. So he keeps that pike position real tight here. A little bit of a splash at the end. But overall, a good catch up on what could have been a lot worse from the start.
Yeah. And one thing I noticed on the 3 meters is how close that 5 meter is to them. I know the inside board, some people don't like using it because of how close it is. Maybe that's why like Tasman, say, is on the outside board. But for me as a diver, I was always scared of using the inside board here.
Well, over the weekend, a lot of people are going to see the tower events. This is one of the first pools with those really wide concrete towers. When I used to compete here, I used the one close to the 5 meters. So you're right, it can be an issue for some divers. Tasman with the forward 3.5 pike position also. Good work on the board. Everything has to happen really fast when you come out of the pike position right here. Line up your body, but the stomach has to keep really, really tight to have the least splash possible. So that created a bit of water at the end. So 5.5, 6.5, and up to 7 for Tasman. Olivier Gauthier from the Camo Diving Club. He'll be doing a back 2.5 pike position, 3.0 degree of difficulty. Oh, good work at the back end of this dive here. Jumped out a little far from the board. Beautiful pike position. And you can see the body arch a little bit right here. But that only means he knew exactly where he was in the air and just went to pull a little bit harder to find that vertical.
Yeah, Aaron there saying a little bit back with the chest, just like you said, Alex. Sometimes the eyes don't lie.
61.50 on the dive for Olivier. Bryden Hattie up next. Forward 3.5 pike position, 3.1 degree of difficulty. Ooh. Well done. He really put the brakes on that one at the end, almost a little bit too much, because very smooth on the board. Great work here. I really love the way he gets into that beautiful pike position. Kept it a little bit short from the vertical here. That's what created the splash, but in general, a good dive.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be complaining about that 74.4 for Bryden. That should keep him up there in the leaderboards.
And Bryden's been into major games before, Commonwealth Games in not 19, I was in 1998, in 2018. So obviously dreaming about Olympic Games and the biggest stage in the world.
Yeah, all these boys here, they're working towards that World Championship so they can qualify the spot for Canada, and then our Olympic trials will be later on in June, I believe, or May, possibly.
Carson Paul, very steady again. Forward 3.5, pike position. Bit of a struggle on the board right off the top here, but kept his composure. Missing a little bit of height to make it look a little bit easier for the judges. But still, good control at the end.
And that pike position is just perfect. It's textbook pike position right there. You can't get better than that.
Straight legs, pointed feet, face right up your shins over there. So it's not much more he can do. Cedric Fofana up next with a back 2.5 pike position. Oh, and for Cedric, this dive is obviously not very demanding physically. And he jumps so high in the air, but even if he's so tall, he manages to get a lot of speed. And that requires control also.
Some of these easy dives for the boys, they're called precision dives, where they're optionals, but they have so much time, they can really, like, you need to be very precise at where you point your toes, or there is that chance of going over just a little bit short. And Cedric just a little bit short, but still overall good scores, 7, 6.5.
And you want to minimize the mistakes, right? So this is obviously not the best he can do, but still not a big miss also. Here comes Victor now. Victor Povsner with a forward 2.5, 2 twists, 3.4 degree of difficulty. So high up in the air.
When he starts to spin, I'm always like, oh, he's not going to make it, he's not going to make it. And then he just floats in the air for like 5 seconds.
But that is also an extra skill that you have to learn how to manage. Knowing how high you are in the air, beautiful pike position here, which he can't stay in for very long because he's so high. He's got to keep that stomach real tight when he gets into the water to really minimize the splash. That's all about assessing how to line up your arms towards the water. 2 rounds done. Now Bryden Hattie up in first place for now. Victor Povsner in second. Carson Paul in third.
A little bit of toing and froing on the leaderboard there. I mean, it's all still within 15 points for the first 4, which is super, super close, especially in an event like this.
Well, we're going to see a lot harder dives coming up in the next 4 rounds, of course, and that can be a way to really go straight ahead towards the gold.
Yeah, if you can hit one of those big 3.8s or 3.9s, you got a good shot at getting that gold medal.
And we have some of those coming up later in this event. Later in this round, actually.
Yeah.
For now, though, Luke Gertsen with a forward 2.5, 1 twist, pike position. I love the way he's in full control of every dive. He jumped out of a little far away from the board, so the judges will deduct for that. But still, did not panic, lines up his arms just fine. Body rolls over a little bit, but he kept his legs in to minimize the splash.
Keeping it steady, 7, 6.5. I know he's looking to increase that degree of difficulty that we were talking about so he can get higher overall scores, but you know, keeping those dives steady is the most important thing when you're going through the age groups.
And also in this springboard event, when you're a bit younger, you need to sort of build up a little bit of physical condition to push that board as hard as possible to jump higher. So that, I'm sure, is something he'll be working on in the near future.
That's where the gym comes in.
Same dive here from Dean. A forward 2.5, 1 twist. A little bit of a hard time on the board. I'm sure you guys heard it as well. But he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Don't panic. Keep executing the technique. And also rolled a little bit off. Aaron telling him right now, we heard it from the board. It's all about that timing, right?
But like he put the dive down, and like I said, he's a competitor, so he's gonna keep in this one.
Ernest Breitenbach now. Forward 2.5, 2 twist, pike position. Oh, I think he was in trouble on the board. This is when I'm happy to see the replay, but I see it in his reaction.
I almost saw there might have been a little bit of an over twist on the bottom as well. Maybe it came from some of the troubles on the board.
You're right, Rylan. You see the legs not completely sideways to the judges, so they will deduct for that for sure. 4.5s and 5s up to 6 for a total of 54.4. It's a split second when you know you're going to be in trouble on the board between telling yourself not to panic and just keep going through the motion.
That's one of the hardest things to do.
Tasman up next. Big dive coming up here. 3.5 degree of difficulty for a 307C. Reverse 3.5 somersaults tuck. Oh, again, in trouble on the board. And in this one, if you're behind the end of the board, which we can see right here is the case, that means you don't get as much height. And you want to be able to jump forward as well. So now, obviously, that probably triggered something in his head, and the judgment wasn't there to do the right movements here.
Speaking of being back in a reverse 3.5, I've seen you do that one once before.
I've been in that situation. I know what it's all about. And again, everything happens so fast, so you have to react. But coming out of that rotation a bit early also didn't help for sure. I've been in, oh yeah, too many times. Olivier Gauthier now with a forward 3.5 pike position. Well done.
I thought he had a little trouble on the board there, but like he did not phase him at all.
Knows exactly where he is in the air. Bit to the side, but it's the banging on the board, which right away lets the diver know, uh-oh, I'm not going to be able to use it to its full potential. Kept his composure. Beautiful pike position for 7.5 and 8s here. And when that happens on the board can be one of many things. The nerves, the extra energy that you don't really have in training. Just to put you off during the competition.
And sometimes you feel like you're off, but you really aren't that much. And and then things start to snowball.
Here it comes Bryden with a reverse 2.5 pike position. Oh, good breaks.
Better than the prelims. He went even further over in the prelims. I know this is probably one of the ones he's most nervous for. He spent a lot of time working on it this week, and I think he'll be happy with how that one went.
And the prelims that happened earlier this morning, that means if he was even further past the vertical, that's still in his head, so he remembers. But clearly I can see that this is a diver who'll be able to add a flip and do a reverse 3.5 very shortly in time. Yeah. He's got the power. He can do it for sure. It's one thing to be safe with lower degree of difficulty dives, but when you have that extra amount of energy, it makes it more difficult to control.
Yeah, especially also at the World Championships, we're going to need to have those bigger dives to compete with like the best in the world, which is what all these guys are working towards.
Carson Paul still steady with the forward 2.5, 1 twist pike position. Very good choice of dives for him so far. Didn't quite get into that pike position here, so the judges will have seen that. Beautiful entry in the water. He can be very happy with this dive.
almost more impressive that he didn't even have to go in the pike position to do it.
That's a sign for me that he needs to add a twist to this one, and that I'm sure is also coming up.
Here's one of Cedric's big dives, the reverse 3.5. I know I've seen him do this one literally for 10s. And you just got to get that board work right, and I know he's got the confidence to do it.
Just got to stay calm on that board. Just go through the technique. Reverse 3.5 tuck. Big dive here. Oh, just a little bit missing at the end. And it's not about the space in the air. He jumps so high, very tight tuck position. The judges will see, of course, that the toes are not pointed during the rotation. Something to work on here. Comes out of that rotation just a little bit too early, and then the legs drop. You got to keep the stomach real tight so that the legs follow.
The judges did reward him for that height, though, and how easy he made that reverse 3.5 look.
68.25 for Cedric on this last dive. All right, I promised you a massive dive here, and here it comes. Victor Povzner with a forward 4.5 somersaults tuck, 3.8 degree of difficulty. One of the biggest dives you'll see out there. Oh. And I've done that dive before, and you want to get that rotation going as fast as possible, but also height is not a problem for Victor. And the difficulty here is to keep that tuck position as tight as possible for the whole time. And unfortunately here, that didn't happen for him, and so coming out was missing some space to really complete the dive.
But like you said, still smiling. I know he's out here. I talked to him earlier. He's like, I don't know if he's allowed to compete for Canada necessarily, which is why there's the 9 in the finals.
That's right.
But he said he's just out here competing because he loves doing it, and that's what it's all about.
Originally from Russia, did a couple of competitions there for them, so that's why he's not necessarily fully Canadian for this one, but he is. And I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him around the Canadian events and representing Canada in the future.
Absolutely.
Carson Paul in the lead for now. Bryden Hattie in second. 3 more rounds to go. Here comes Luke Gertsen now with a reverse 2.5 tuck position, 2.8 degree of difficulty.
This is sometimes where people put their less consistent dives in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds. And I mean, I've seen Luke do this dive amazing, so we'll see what he's got for us.
Wow! Beautiful.
Oh, I know they'll be happy with that one.
Absolutely. And that reverse rotation is always a bit more stressful for a lot of divers. Good work on the board. Spots that water. Keeps his eyes open. 1, 2. Knows exactly where to line up the feet. And if the water doesn't splash on a replay, ladies and gentlemen, then that means it was even better in real life and real time. 8.5s up to 9s for this one. 72.8.
The judges must have loved that one. Lower TD dive still gave him the 9s. That was a dirty entry.
Is that what the kids say these days? Here comes Dean Kalfakakos now. He'll be doing the exact same dive.
Let's see how he handles the pressure.
Good response.
Very good, very good.
A little bit in a tough spot on the board. Leaning forward, that means you really have to focus on how you're going to create that rotation. Don't use your upper body because that brings you back towards the board, which did not happen here, thankfully. A little bit past the vertical. Every time you're stuck on the board in an uncomfortable position, just changes your judgment for the rest of the dive. Ideally, it wouldn't, but reality has its way.
And even for being such a young diver, he showed such good composure on that dive. It was very impressive to see him not freak out and just do what he knows how to do and put it in.
Ernest Breitenbach now. He'll be doing a back 2.5 pike position, 3.0 degree of difficulty. Hasn't quite found his rhythm yet in this event. 3 more rounds for him to do that. Good work at the end of the dive here.
Yeah, I thought when he came out, he might be dropping it short, but you could tell he really knows where he is in the dive, and just to give it a little extra pull with his back to get it around. It's not always the best thing you want to do, but if you're in that situation, you got to do it to land on your head.
A little extra work to get those scores, 6.5 and 6 on the dive, 55.5 for your boy Ernie. Tasman Abramovich coming up. Also looking to get back after a tough round with this back 2.5 pike position. Bit of an easier dive. Trying to get back into this event. Oh, good speed, good height. You really got to be aware of those 2 rotations.
Makes it look so easy, but just pointed those toes a little bit too high above the board.
And coming out of the pike position here, if you kind of whip your upper body, that just keeps the rotation going, and that's what we saw here. Very hard to control after that. 4.5s up to 6.5 on the dive. Be disappointing for Tasman. Olivier Gauthier now with a forward 2.5, 2 twists. Big dive coming up. 3.4 degree of difficulty. Oh, I love the direction from the board. That is really textbook. Perfect distance. Would have needed a little bit more of a pike position, real tight, right here. The split second you come out too early, that's also space that you're going to be missing out at the end of the dive.
One of the things that's very impressive on those twister dives is when they can keep their legs all the way together and tight. That's something that even I struggle with on the 10 meter, is keeping those legs together and not letting them flop apart. And he did a really good job on that dive, even though he wasn't perfectly vertical, just keeping those legs super tight. The judges love to see that.
Bryden Hattie coming up with an inward 3.5 tuck. 3.4 degree of difficulty.
Wow.
You had to fight for that one all the way to the end.
He knows the world championship spot's in the line right now.
Oh, yes. Good work here. Coming out of that tuck position, reacting really fast to go and line up for the water. Could have been, I mean, a little bit higher in the air, but having that sort of work ethic at the end to really fight all the way to the bottom of the dive for 8s. Great work here.
81 points in that one. Those are the kind of dives that really skyrocket you in the standings.
All right. 4th dive for Carson Paul is a back 2.5 pike position. He's been having a really good event so far. Can he keep this going? Oh, wow.
Ooh, wow.
I really love his diving. When we mentioned before that judges like to see the dives looking very easy, very simple, effortless, that is exactly what we just witnessed. High up in the air, beautiful pike position. Body keeps rolling a little bit towards the end. He knows it. That's why he arched his back. And that caused the body to roll, but really beautiful dive.
He's such a funny guy. He doesn't always look like he's having the most fun, but he's always out there, smiling inside, I think. it's pretty serious, but
Got to keep a certain level of focus here in this event, right? Except for Victor, which will come in a couple of dives. All right, inward 2.5 pike now for Cédric Fofana. Good dive. The movement back from the board is what caused him not to be fully straight at the end. And he goes straight into that rotation. I'd like to see him go a little bit further up before getting into the pike position, which would make it look more easy. But all in all, a good dive. 7.5s, 8s for a total of 67.5 on the dive.
He's definitely keeping himself in the running for this World Championship spot with that. I know he's got a big 3.9 dive to end the competition on, so he's giving himself every opportunity to get there.
All right, here comes Victor Povsner now with a reverse 2.5 pike position. And with how high he's able to jump, he'll need to really control this one. Well done. And the key to this for Victor is really to not speed it up so much, which is exactly what he did. A little bit to the side of the board, didn't panic, knows exactly where he is in the air. Great pike position here, and it's all about applying those air brakes to really stop that rotation.
Yeah, some of the divers like to put their arms out away from the body to just give themselves that little bit of less rotation when they're going for their entries. If you keep it close to your body, you tend to rotate a little bit more going into the water. So it's all about knowing exactly where you are and having to play on that.
You mentioned going up in the standings for Brighton Hattie. That is exactly what's going on. He's in the lead now. Carson Paul in second. Cédric Fofana in third. Victor Povsner not far behind. There's going to be a battle in the next couple of rounds for that podium and those World Championship spots. Round number 5 kicking off right now. Luke Gertsen now with a back 2.5 pike position.
He did have a little bit of troubles in this one in the prelims, leaving a little bit short, but I saw in the warm-up before this event, him and Mary really worked on getting the direction and making sure it's speeding up a little bit so he can really get around and make it land vertical.
Back 2.5 pike. Oh. Didn't want to be short from the vertical on that one. Jumped a little far out from the board. That creates more rotation, so really have to be able to stop it right there. But the legs kept going. You really got to keep the stomach muscles tight.
Oh, I think he'll be happy with that one. 7, 6.5. I saw Mary smiling, so
that's always a good sign, right?
If she's smiling, we're good.
Mary's your coach as well, so you know that when she's smiling, it's good news. Dean Kalfakakos now from the Point Claire Diving Club. His next dive will be a back 2.5, this time in the tuck position, 2.8 degree of difficulty. Oh! Even though it's an easier dive, you really have to give it everything you have. I feel like he held back a little bit here. Right up, get that speed going. Came out of that rotation a little bit too early, so kept him short from the vertical.
Yeah, you see Aaron there talking about how he could have maybe reached a little more with his arms to salvage even more, but like you said, if he would have had a little bit more speed on it, it would have been able to go down a little easier.
The arms have to really line up with the body towards the water, and in this case, if you line up a little bit forward, you're going to stop that rotation right away, which is what we saw. All right, Ernest now coming up with a reverse 2.5 pike position. He doesn't give up, I'll give you that much. The judges will deduct for him being a bit far from the board. Came out of that rotation a little bit early, but you could see he arched his back to try and reach that vertical.
And over time, if you keep doing those arches a lot, especially on the 10-meter, you can develop back problems. So that's when the coaches really don't want to see you doing that too often, unless you have to in a competition. But Ideally,
you know a
don't.
thing or two about that.
Yeah, been there before.
Tasman Abramovich gearing up for his 5th round dive, which is a reverse 1.5, 3.5 twists.
And this is one of his new dives that I haven't seen him do very often. I saw it for the first time in the prelim. I didn't even know he did it actually until today, but
Big degree of difficulty here, 3.5, so not much rotation. It's not a demanding dive, but you still have to give it your full energy. I felt like he held back a little bit on the rotation side of the dive.
and you see him going a little bit to the side of the board, which the judges will notice because they're so close, which is maybe why they deduct that a little bit.
Hence the 5s and 5.5s here. Visually not a big mistake, but the judges are right there, as you mentioned, Riley. Up next, Olivier Gauthier. He'll be doing a reverse 2.5 pike position.
I don't know how he pulled that one. Wow.
The banging on the board, obviously, right away, that tells everyone in the room that there's some trouble happening, but kept his calm. Beautiful straight legs in the pike position. It could be instinctual to almost bend your legs and try to fix things when they don't need to be fixed. Rolled a little bit over. That's because he obviously thought he didn't have enough space to complete the dive, but really managed to get enough height. So really decent control here to salvage the end of this dive. Bryden Hattie coming up now with a back 2.5 pike, 3.0 degree of difficulty.
He's coming off a big 80-point dive. Let's see if we can keep that momentum going into this next back 2.5.
Oh, he's got a lot of energy.
So much power coming off that board.
Absolutely, way high in the air. Very, very fast rotation as well, so you got to really control that come out. And he also gave a bit of a whip with his upper body, which kept the body going. Tommy McLeod, I feel like he's listening to what I'm saying. He's telling the same thing to Bryden.
Like I said earlier, the eyes don't lie.
But even as the coaches go on, this dive is over. Really got to look ahead right away at the next one coming up. Carson Paul, big one here with the reverse 3.5 tuck position.
He did fantastic on the prelim in this dive.
Oh, another beautiful one. A little bit stuck on the board that we could hear, but he gets in that real tight tuck position. Enough speed to complete the dive very easily. And is very aware in the air. He knows exactly where those 3 rotations are happening. Once again, a little bit of an arch to the back, which keeps the body rolling.
And even though he didn't get the highest scores, the degree of difficulty on that dive will help catapult him up the leaderboard.
Cédric Fofana. He'll be following this with a forward 3.5 pipe. Oh! He was all set up for a perfect end of dive, a perfect ripped entry.
He looks like he's just a little bit open in his upper body going in on that one and on the inward, just so he didn't quite get that perfect rip entry.
And it's about that lining of the arms, right? Gotta be really both arms right beside your ears in the line with the body. That kept him a little bit short from the vertical, but good enough for 7.5s and 8s on the dive.
I think this is going to come down to the last round really close here on the leaderboard.
Let's keep the show going right up until the end, right? Speaking of a show, here comes Victor Povsner with a back 2.5 pike position. Oh, I got nervous at the top here. He loves the show. He's happy with this dive. Very high in the air. I didn't think he was going to have enough speed to fully complete the dive, but he held on to the pike position here, gave a little whip to the body. It's all about controlling, and he found as close as vertical as possible on this one for 7.5s and 8s.
Let's see these standings going into the last round. That's what everyone's interested in.
All right, here are the standings after 5 rounds. Carson Paul now in first. One tiny little half a point behind Bryden Hattie. Cédric Fofana not too far behind either. 4th place, Victor Povsner. Everything can change in this last round.
Stay tuned. We got a good one coming up for you.
It's always very exciting towards an event when there's going to be a battle for first, second, or third place in this case, all the way up to the last round of dives. And this is what you're getting, ladies and gentlemen, in this men's 3-meter final. Here comes Luke Gertzen now. His last dive will be an inward 2.5 tuck position, 2.7 degree of difficulty.
Currently sitting in 5th place, which is a massive improvement from the 9th in the prelim. He's kind of the next one after the top 4 who are fighting it out for the medals.
Beautiful. Very steady event all along. No big mistakes. Knows what to work on for the next future events, obviously. A little bit far back from the board here, but finds that vertical. Good entry in the water. Can be happy with this performance.
I think he'd be super happy with it. I know him and Mary were looking for a personal best, and I think he was awfully close if he didn't get one.
Just over 367 points for Luke. Up next, Dean Kalfakakos now. His last dive will be a reverse 1.5 twist, 2.5 degree of difficulty. Well done. Much easier dive here, but obviously leaving some space to add a twist here very soon, I'm sure, if it's not already done, and he's working on it in practice.
Yeah, I'd imagine they've got that one working in the practice already.
Good distance from the board, manages to find the vertical. Whoa.
All these crazy handshakes.
I know. Worked out. He can be happy with the event as well.
And I know a lot of these younger boys, too, are also competing the platform later on in the week, so this won't be the last you see of them.
And it's great in these nationals here to see that there are still quite a few athletes that compete both on the springboard and the platform, because nowadays a lot of divers are specializing on one in particular. So it's very interesting to see that we still have some kids that want to do both.
Yeah, it takes a whole other skill set to be able to do both, and I think there's great benefit to doing both as long as you possibly can.
Ernest Breitenbach now, reverse 1.5, 3.5 twist. Oh,
I saw him doing it so good in the practice. You know, just that little bit forward on the board makes it so hard on the reverse direction.
So obviously, all the weight of the body leaning forward, you're trying to create that rotation towards the board. Just didn't manage to get enough to complete the dive at the end. 42 points. I'm sure he knows he can do better on this one. Always something to take away, though. Tasman Abramovich, his last dive, a forward 2.5, 2-twist pike. I've seen him dive at a higher level than today, so hopefully he can finish strong here. Well done.
Great way to finish for Tasman.
Very strong takeoff here. I think it would have helped him if he held on to that pike position maybe a split second longer. Just makes it more difficult at the end to really get that vertical. 6.5 and 7s for a total of 71.4 on this last dive.
And for those who don't know, I don't know if we've mentioned it yet, the judges' scores. We have 7 judges. You take off the top 2 scores, you take off the bottom 2 to get the average of the middle 3, and then you multiply that by the degree of difficulty, which is how hard the dive is, and that's generated by some crazy computer formula. I don't know.
That's not our job to do. Olivier Gauthier now with an inward 2.5 pike position to finish this competition. Well done. Beautiful line in the legs and the feet. You can see that right away in his pike position. Great control here. I think he can be happy with that result.
Yeah, very, very solid for him all throughout, even though they didn't have the best hurdles, I remember. But he put everything on his head, which is the ultimate goal of every competition.
Because you can never, in the hurdle dives, you can never hope that everything's going to be perfect, especially not in competition.
No. That's never how it is.
Is that why you chose the tower?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm not strong enough for the 3 meter, and I couldn't go to the gym often enough to get strong enough.
Bryden Hattie in the fight for gold. A forward 2.5, 2 twists, pike position.
Big dives coming up here.
Oh,
that's the statement.
Especially since he's the first of the 4 that are fighting for that gold. He is setting the tone. Stayed focused the whole way. A little bit stuck to the side on the board, did not panic, held on to that pike position, and really aggressive towards the end to get that vertical landing and a beautiful entry as well. Wow.
I know he worked really hard to get that dive. At one point, he was struggling doing more than a 1.5 twist, so super hard to get that one, and it's great to see him put it down when he needed to.
Wow. All right. Up next, Carson Paul. His last dive, another big one, inward, 3.5 tuck position, 3.4 degree of difficulty.
That might have been the best one I've seen.
There's a response for you. All right. Beautiful dive. For my personal liking, I thought he was a tiny little bit close to the board. Nothing dangerous, but the judges will see that.
And you see
really tight tuck position.
That pike out at the end really shows that he knows where he is, and he was ready for that one.
8.5s and 9s. That puts him in first place for now.
Wow, what a response from Carson.
And it's great to see young divers like Carson reacting to pressure being applied on them in a situation of final where there's a spot at the World Championships at stake here. So great show of character here.
Speaking of pressure, 2 amazing dives. Cedric's got the biggest dive of the competition here in the triple forward 2.5 somersaults with a triple twist.
3.9 degree of difficulty here.
Oh my goodness.
This is going to be a lot of points.
What are they going to do?
Wow. And it's great to see Cedric also reacting to the pressure being put on them. Pike position here. Okay, the legs split a little bit, but still to be able to accomplish those 3 twists, finding that vertical. 89.70. So close.
Oh my goodness.
That puts him in second place for now.
Wow.
All right. What a show.
One of the best finals I've seen in a long time.
You're absolutely right. And the last dive of this final belongs to Victor Povsner, and it's going to be an inward 3.5 tuck position, 3.4 degree of difficulty. There had to be one that didn't really manage the pressure at the end here. Great takeoff. Just held on to that tuck position way too long. And also, if you duck your head in, that's just going to keep your body rolling.
You could tell he wanted that one, but sometimes it just goes a little over.
51 points on the last dive, but overall a good event for Victor as well. It's great to see that we have enough divers to create that battle to get in the top 2 positions to head to the World Championships. Carson Paul is your national champion. Cedric Fofana in 2nd place. Bryden Hattie in 3rd. That was a really good final to watch.
That was amazing. Wow.
And thank you for taking part with me, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
And I'm sure we'll hear more from you throughout the weekend. And so these are the results for your men's 3-meter final at these Winter National Championships. The qualifiers for the World Championships happening in Qatar early February. And we'll be back with more diving tomorrow. See you then.
See ya.
and presenters for the men's 3-meter championship finals event. The medals will be presented by head coach CDI Victoria. We know him as Tommy McLeod. In third position, your winner of the bronze medal with 429.20 points, Bryden Hattie. Just 5 points ahead with 434.80 from Cabo, your silver medalist, Cedric Fofana. Six points ahead with 440.70 points, your gold medalist, your 2024 Winter National Champion, Carson Paul. Diving fans, one more round of applause for your medalists in the men's 3-meter championship event. Congratulations. Some amazing dives in that last round. Changes on the top 3 scoring, and there are your medalists. This, the 2024 Winter National Championships, is a trials for the World Aquatic Championships to be held in Doha. Good luck to all of our athletes competing, representing Canada at the World Aquatic Championships. This round.
Carson, national champion on the 3-meter springboard event, which is not your specialty, and you're going to the World Championships on this one. How do you feel?
Honestly, unreal. I mean, coming into this, I was just trying to have fun, and I knew I could put together a few good dives. I got some hard ones in there, but I never expected to be in the top 3 or even winning. This feels surreal.
And so the 10-meter event is coming, which is the one you're used to competing in. How good of a boost of confidence is this heading for the rest of the event?
I mean, winning this was obviously super exciting, so it kind of takes a little pressure off. 10-meter, I can just kind of have a little bit more fun with it, be a little easier on myself going into that one.
And do you see a future on the 3-meter event now that you're a national champion?
I mean, I'm having fun with it. We'll see where it goes. You know, I'll try and add in a few upgrades there, some harder dives, and we'll see what happens.
Congratulations, Carson.
All right, thank you so much.